Okay, I have these drum samples. They make up a power kit, that's what they are. There they are, bass drum, rim shot, snare, so on. I'm going to pull them up in here. As you can see, none of them have any useful sample information. I don't have any high key, low key, root key information, none of that. So what we're going to do is we're going to add that using the auto key feature. And how this works is we'll start at a low key, say 36, which also corresponds with C2. You can enter either note numbers or note names. And we're going to come over here. You see, key step will go up by 1 step for each one of these. I'll come down here. I want to export them as waves into a new folder. We're going to call it SFZ. And that folder is going to match this project folder over here. Go ahead and load my SFZ project back while we wait. Alright, so now we've got our new folder. Pull it up, create new folder. Almost did that wrong. Okay, we'll save audio. Boom. Let's pull up that new folder if we can. And there's our new SFZ folder we created, and it has a number of samples. What I'm going to show you now is just pull them back up over here. You see, these are our new samples that we generated, and they each have high key and low key information embedded in the sample files now. And that's pretty useful for every kind of sampler and sample reading program. That's pretty good stuff. What we're going to do now, since we have information built right into them, we can select them all, and you see when these go to an asterisk, what that's going to do is use the sample information inside the file rather than to use whatever we have set on our settings. And since our files now have info, we can just go ahead and use that. We're going to come over here. Since we're going to want to export this as a drum kit, it's good to select one shot. No ring out as one shot type samples. We'll come over here, and what we want to do is we'll click group layers. You don't have to group layers, but what that will do is when it's not selected, it will export velocity, high and low information per sample. And we'll just go ahead and when we select group layers, what it will do is consider all of these to be part of the same one layer, and it'll define the velocity information for that entire layer. That's pretty useful. It will make a smaller file size and make it easier to edit if I need to. We'll click Create SFZ. We're going to want to put that in the same folder where we've been saving the rest of our stuff just for convenience. And we'll give it a name, something like Power Kit. Bam. Let's pull that folder back up over here. There's our Power Kit. You look at it, this is what an SFZ file looks like. It's just text. You can open one up and edit it by hand if you want to, or create one by hand. And you see what our group tag did, is it defined one shot for all of the following high key or high velocity and low velocity, and these are our crossfades as well. So we could instead of putting all 4 of those lines, 5 of those lines added to each one of our regions, we just define it for all of them because it's the same for all of them. And here you see where it defines which wave to use on which keys and what their key center would be, which is C4. And that's where it would play its original pitch. But we don't care about any of that really because it's a drum kit. We don't care about pitch with drum kits. What we're going to do now is come back over here. We're going to convert that file to a Fantom G patch. Open up. Select the SFZ file. There she is. And since we're doing a drum kit, we'll turn auto tune off. What auto tune does is it basically will take and change the pitch based on which note you're trying to apply that particular sample to. So it'll play back properly. If you take a single sample and stretch it across a range, it'll pitch itself differently based on where it's at. And that's, you know, that'll make it work properly when you do piano. So you turn it off and it'll work properly when you do drums. We'll also go ahead and just ignore the root keys, because we really didn't define them, and we'll just ignore all that, because drums, that's usually typical of drums. They don't define root key information and things. You can define transpose if you like to pitch the keys, but anyway, what we're going to do, we have to define our samples folder. This is what makes the program work. It has to know where to find the samples, and what to call them, and how to index them when it builds a patch on the Fantom G. So as you can see, we'll pull that up. Bam. We'll do the same thing here. You can just copy and paste. Boom. So our output folder is going to be the same folder. And when you select export as set, what that will do is you can select 16 different instruments in this list and export them all as a single studio set, and that's kind of convenient too. But we'll go ahead and say convert. Bam. And what it did was it automatically named it based on the name of the SFZ file. So over here we should have a power kit MIDI file, and sure enough we do. Come back to the Fantom. Got our new SFZ project that we went ahead and loaded over here. First thing we want to do is, this whole thing always works in studio mode. Anything it generates is going to be in studio mode, so you always want to be in studio mode. And we'll go ahead and go to USB storage mode so we can get our new content over to the Fantom. Okay. We want to select all of our samples, copy those, to the Fantom G's import. You want to always clear everything that was in the import directory beforehand. You can go ahead and make a backup copy of the stuff if you need it, but you want the import directory to be empty every time you do an import. This way, on the Fantom, we can select all of these files, and they're going to import one by one, and they're going to do it alphabetically, which is the way that our program over here generated their file indexes. It did it alphabetically. So as long as we keep everything, the list's got to stay the same alphabetically. You can continue to add samples and build a really nice multi-sample project like this. Alright, we're done adding our samples. Now we'll come over here, find our SFZ project, get to our sequence folder, SMF folder, come back over here, grab our power kit MIDI file, and paste that there. That should be about it. Back out. Got disconnected over here on Windows 7 because, you know, computers are computers. We come back over here, exit, exit, go to import audio, go ahead and import all of them from that list. There they are, bunch of drum samples. Alright, pull up song mode, SMF list, pick our power set. Well, I always import it as a song, man. It's just convenient. It gives you a whole new studio set that's about to get rearranged when all this stuff goes down anyway. So I usually use song mode for this whole purpose, man. I suggest you do. And there we go. Pulled up this sequence. Watch what happens when I press play. It's already called Power Kit. The actual studio set itself got named Power Kit because it's just got this one instrument, so it makes sense to name it after that instrument. You wait a few seconds, there you go. Now it says Power Kit on channel 1. And we just imported the one instrument, so channel 1's the only instrument that's going to get set. The rest of them ain't got nothing to do with this. There it is. Yep, anyways, so yeah, that's how it works.